Before the video start, I would like to mention that all the numbers in this video are players logged in at the same time. If a number says 1000 players, then there is 1000 players logged in at the same time. The total player base is a lot larger. And let's continue with the video. Hello, welcome to the video. In this video we're gonna take a look at the Steam charts, not only for IdleOn, but also a few other games that are not exactly similar, but a few I have played on the channel, and I think they're all Idle related in some way. So here we can see around 2200 to 1.6 or something like that until the update came out around this time. 2.4, 2. Well, it peaked out at 3,516. Everyone wanted to check out the new update. The next day we had lost 400 players. We pretty much didn't lose anyone the next day. I think we gained a few now. So right now, like 1 hour ago, they were at 3.3 thousand compared to the peak of 3.5. So I would say the update worked, but you can see here in July we had 6.5 thousand, and that slowly dropped to, kept dropping all of August, dropped real bad during September. If we scroll down a bit, we can see here when the game first launched in April, we had a peak of 6,000 and we continued to grow into May. Then we lost a few players in June. We grew a lot in July again. July was the best month ever. Was that during the summer event maybe? But then we have been dropping every month. August was a big drop, lots of players burning out. September, even more people burning out. And the last 30 days, well, lots of people still burning out. Hopefully the new patch can improve it a bit, but it also added lots of new active stuff that will burn out even more players. So since the peak, it has lost about half the players, which isn't that bad. It's pretty, honestly, 3000 online is pretty good for a small MMO, especially since you don't need other players to play it. So if we look at a few other games, this is Realm Grinder. It had a similar peak all time, 6.2k. But this had been around for quite some time, 2017. And then it had massive growth this month here, which was the peak. Then it's been up and down, mostly down. But it remains pretty popular, about 1,500 players still playing it, 1,000 online. This is online at the same time, not total players, of course. Then we have Island Ruler Gods. I did a few videos on this. It had a 2.7k peak. Then had been lots of up and down. It kept about 1,000 players at the peak, which is also pretty good for an idle game. And here on Maplestory, every time you upload a video, YouTube thinks IdleOn is Maplestory. You can see here the all-time peak for IdleOn is actually more popular than Maplestory on Steam, which is pretty interesting. I'm guessing Maplestory have a separate client. However, IdleOn is also a lot bigger on mobile than on Steam. 2012. So Maplestory been around on Steam for a long time. I think it's been around, outside Steam a lot longer than that. So it kept around. Actually, it got pretty low here. Some months, 400. Then it exploded a bit, even 3,000 last year. Now it's sitting around 2,000. The peak of a bit over 3,000. That's pretty good. Then we have NGU Idle. It has a peak of 8,000. This game was actually pretty popular, and it still is. You can see it has a peak of 6,000 and last 30-day average player 5,000. This is a game that's actually still really popular. So if we add this in here, you can see it crushes both Maplestory and IdleOn. Then we have NGU Industries. This one is pretty fun. It peaked at 8,000 players when it released. Then it dropped half the players the next month. Then it just kept dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping. From 8,000 peak to 700 peak. I didn't really enjoy this game either. But if we compare all time, it actually had a higher peak than normal game, the idle game, NGU Idle. But then it just plummeted. Let's remove Maplestory. Just dropped like a rock. Then we have Melvor Idle. Had about 1,000 active players, bumping up to 3,000 in the summer and falling down to 2,000 players. So it's been growing pretty steadily. If you compare it from the launch to now, it has doubled in size and peaking at over 6,000 players, which is very good for a idle game where you pretty much you can finish it in like less than 5 minutes. Then we have Clicker Heroes, absolutely destroying everything else. All-time peak at 65,000 when it came out in 2015. But then it had been dropping players pretty. Actually, sometimes it grows a bit. Like this month it gained 5,000 new players. I want to repeat that this is online at the same time. And then we have the current day of 3,000 players. So even now it's bigger than IdleOn, just barely. Then we have Cookie Clicker. It launched, well, last month, had a peak of 67,000. I would say that's pretty damn good. 35,000 playing it right now. And this is pretty much the game that started the whole clicker thing. It's by far the most famous one. And while the web version is free, the Steam version actually cost money. So you can see how many he sold. He must have sold maybe, well, a lot. Easily over 100,000, maybe 200, maybe even 300,000, who knows. So he got the paycheck he probably deserved because the web version had been free all this time. And millions upon millions of millions have been playing it. And then we have Time Clickers. This is an idle game where you pretty much are a gun shooting boxes. And this one doesn't have that impressive stats. It came out strong in 2015. Then it pretty much been dropping ever since. Started out as almost 7,000 at the peak. A year later it was under 1,000 and been that way for the last 5 years. Now it have about 200 players playing it at once, which is pretty good. That's not bad at all. These are mostly single player games. Keep that in mind, you don't actually need other players. Then we have Leaf Blower Revolution idle game. Started out strong with 8,000 players. I played this on the channel. It was actually surprisingly good. I didn't know it was this popular though. Almost as big as IdleOn, and you pretty much are this little guy here blowing around pixelated leaves. Yeah, it started out strong here. You can compare the launch of Melvor Idle and Leaf Blower. Melvor Idle started at a bit below 2,000 and Leaf Blower over 8,000. But then here, Melvor Idle started growing real quickly. Now Melvor Idle had more players than Leaf Blower, about double, but now they are kind of similar. Then we have Soda Dungeon, 5,000 peak when it launched in 2017 on Steam, but it dropped pretty damn quickly. Half a year later, it was under 1,000, and it pretty much never got over 1,000 again. So about 100 players a month playing it at once. Then we have Soda Dungeon 2. Now this is a newer game than the other one. I think Soda Dungeon was playable in other places rather than only on Steam. So this one launched at 11,000 peak. It dropped hard the next month, pretty much cutting in half for the next 2 months. It kept dropping. It only took a few months to get below 1,000, while it took almost a year for Soda Dungeon to go below 1,000. But it's still pretty popular, around 600 or 800 playing it every day. Then we have another classic, Adventure Capitalist. Has a peak of 22,000 when it launched. Then it dropped pretty quickly again, but not that quickly actually. You can see here, sometimes you get massive boosts. This is a really old and classical clicker game, but it's pretty simple. But you can see here, even though it's been this many years since it launched on Steam, I'm pretty sure it's older than that. It still has over 1,000 players and peaking over 2,000, which is pretty insane. Then we have Crusaders of Lost Idols, also came out in 2015, about 4,000 peak. It's been dropping pretty quickly. Actually, not quickly at all, it's pretty steady. Look how many years it's keeping over 1,000 players. The numbers are pretty much always the same, 1.4, 1.3, finally go to 1.2, but then we go up again. Pretty much for 6 years it's been keeping this player base. Now that is impressive. You don't need to have massive peaks if you can keep pretty much what you started with. Then we have a, not really an idle game or anything like that, but it's Factorio. It's very active, but you kind of do the same thing. You just have to do it all yourself. Came out 2016 on Steam. Pretty sure it had a non-Steam version at first. They didn't want to post anything until it was, very stable, stuff like that. Had something to do in it. But you can see here it has been growing. Here for almost half a year it was below 10,000 peak. Then it suddenly exploded again. A few months later, 20,000 peak. Kept getting more updates and YouTubers playing it and stuff like that. few years later, it's 22,000 peak. Factorio is pretty much the perfect early access game. Honestly, their development had been pretty much perfect. This is pretty interesting. Went from 12,000 to 34,000 peak. And that was last year. Now it's sitting at peak players of 21,000 and 12,000 average players. I think they have one of the best ratings as well. 98%. Yeah. If you want to buy a game, I would suggest you buy Factorio. So yeah, that's pretty much the video. Some fun with Steam charts. And you can see how bad the focus on active gameplay can be for a game like this. People are just burning out. I think this was pretty much when there were no updates either. People that have been pushing the game had nothing to do, and pretty much everyone was suffering from the stupid guild tasks and stuff like that forces you to do the stuff you don't want to do. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.